One thing that happened this week is Attack of the Clones turned 15.
Yeah. You and I went to get coffee the other day, and we were geeking out about where we were in our lives when we saw that.
Yeah.
Which was very, very different places than where we are now. But I think when you look at the sort of the large scope of Star Wars movies, it's kind of undeniable that Attack of the Clones is the weakest one. Some people say Phantom Menace, some people say Attack of the Clones, but I really think that when it all comes down to it, this is not the one that people remember the most fondly, but there's a lot of cool stuff in it. And also, I think the story of the way it came together, the fact that it was using so much tech that we had never really seen in filmmaking before.
I mean, fun thing to mention is that Attack of the Clones is the first movie to be shot entirely digitally.
Yeah.
That was literally half my lifetime ago. So
yeah, 15 years
creeps
ago.
up on you. But we wanted to run down, here are 15 things that we love about Attack of the Clones.
Yeah.
It might not be our favorite Star Wars movie, but it's still a Star Wars movie. So.
No, and I think like it's important with Star Wars that even the bad ones, you're like, it's still Star Wars. I still love it for those reasons. And even the things that you don't like, look for the things that are good. And that's a general law across the universe. Number one, Kamino. Awesome planet design. This place is really cool. I'm not crazy about all the Jango Fett's hanging out, but
I think it's pretty funny.
But yeah, it's funny when they're all eating and scowling. But this is a really great planet. Like the sort of these inter hallway science tubes here. The fact that they're all cloning. These new characters that we saw for the very first time are very fascinating. Very stark departure than say the end of Phantom Menace, which is very goofy and lovable. This is a slightly darker movie.
Yeah. What's also cool about this is I think they were in a lot of the Phantom Menace stuff, they were still trying to blend practical and digital effects, but in this case, they were kind of like, okay, this is going to be entirely CG. What does it look like? And they were designing with that in mind. Like, there's a lot of rounded surfaces, and it's all very like it looks fake. It's a cloning planet, so it kind of makes sense for it to look a little bit like not real.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you were to take this scene and make it on Tatooine, you'd be like, okay, why couldn't they just get actual sand?
Yeah.
You know?
Plus, you get some cool battles outside in the rain, which is just like, it's very new for Star Wars. Number two, Count Dooku. Amazing actor, obviously. We get that weird, funny lightsaber that kind of looks like a... I'm not going to say it, but I mean, this is great, right? To get this level of sort of terror and fear in a protagonist or antagonist again.
Christopher Lee is such just a wonderful kind of classic character actor, and it's cool to get him. He's kind of like a Grand Moff Tarkin in that Peter Cushing had played all these kind of horror characters. And he had this kind of legacy to him, and it was cool to sort of get. I think they were actually in movies together in old Dracula movies.
Yep.
Might be wrong there, but Christopher Lee been acting forever. He was also playing like Saruman at the time, and
he's like hanging out with like Geonosians, and it's just weird. It's so funny.
He's just a cool dude, and he's got that badass costume. It's such a gorgeous cloak. If you could wear capes without looking like a total weirdo, I'd wear that cape with a cool chain and everything.
I think you could pull it off. Number three, Jar Jar Binks is incredibly toned down in this movie. Like, you don't want to punch him anymore. He's quiet, he's in the back, he's wearing like this weird stuff that you would wear if you like ran a hemp shop. Like, it's very odd, but I actually like this character removed of all the slapstick Roger Rabbit nonsense from the first movie, and he ends up kind of like making some big mistakes in that Senate. So good to see you return and not talk as much as you did last time. Number four, Zam Wessel. Until her face turns into like a weird lizard rodent.
Yeah, so talking about the weird problem of trying to blend CG and practical effects when it was still in that infant phase, her face, that whole warping scene is very, very bad. But Zam Wessel as a character is cool as hell. Like, I love her. She's like this. She's like, oh, this is like sexy sniper woman jumping around in like cool hovercrafts, and then
her
like, oh no, you're an orc.
Her helmet's really cool. It looks like partially kind of like the way Anakin's pod racing helmet looks a little weird and
it's just good old ILM like prop design.
Number five, Obi-Wan and Anakin's buddy cop relationship is really fun in this movie. You don't really get it in the next movie, and you don't get it in the movie before because he's a child. And in the next movie, he's brooding and pissed off, and I mean that's blue-balled and all that all these other problems.
The whole root of the Clone Wars being great is that they've got that dynamic. They've got that friendship.
Yep.
And I love that also within the first 10 minutes of that movie, Anakin's already just such a pain in the ass that he drives Obi-Wan to go drink. He's like, you find her, I'll be at the bar.
Number six, Dexter, Jetster. We got his toy right here. Great guy. I don't know, look at these little like funny sandwiches and jellos he's got, and he puts his hand right in the cream.
Yeah, he like scratches his ass right after that, and then he touches all the food.
Yeah, I grew up.
Great film.
Grew up with people like this, like working at New Jersey diners and stuff like that, and like filthy old bartenders in New York City.
Yeah. Something that's really funny about Star Wars is so often you'll see like props that were picked because they looked futuristic at the time. This like carafe here is a perfect example of that. They had that at like every Starbucks you go to. Like it's just a stainless steel like coffee creamer thing. It probably looked way Star Warsy at the time, but they were like, which is kind of like Aunt Bru's Tupperware back in the 70s. That probably looked really futuristic, but they were like,
it's telling that he's a cool character design because it doesn't, you know, most people with sandals and a ponytail.
Let's look at his plumber's crack here.
Yeah, look at that. Look at that handkerchief he's got hanging out of his.
Is that his? Oh God, does he have like a tail tucked back down there?
Let's not talk about that. Number 7, seeing young Jedi training for the first time in the Jedi library. You eventually get to see these children get slaughtered, which
so
is sad.
if you didn't like them, tune in for the next film and you'll love it.
But it's kind of cool to be like, oh, like how is a Jedi formed as a young kid? I mean, you saw a little bit of it in Phantom Menace, but this was cool to sort of see Yoda taking on this leadership role that we eventually see him take on with Luke on Dagobah when he goes to that fun swamp planet to marry his girlfriend, the Snake.
Don't start with that.
No.
Then of course there's Watteau.
Yeah,
we love Watteau.
Number 8, old Watteau.
I love with Star Wars things. And you see this across the board. They always do something to tweak the design. Like Luke doesn't wear his like farm boy tunic into Empire. He's got like a new outfit. And you're like, oh, and part of that is because it would be like really lazy and cheesy to not do that, and part of it's because they want to make a new toy. But in the case of Watteau, it's like, so what do you do over the course of, I don't know, 5, 10 years, however long that was?
You get a 1950s alien spaceship and you put it on your head.
I sold your mother and I bought this hat. Like, really? You sold my mom and you bought the hat?
Yeah, I mean, I love Watteau. I always have, like, and it was great to see him come back in the next movie. Number 9, we can't play it for you, but Jango Fett's Slave One ship noise. Seeing this in theaters, hearing this in theaters was awesome. It's weird. It's hard to find like pictures of this thing actually flying around.
Dude, also just seeing Slave One in action, because all it does in Empire, and like as a huge Boba Fett fan, I was always like, I want to see it do all that cool stuff.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's dropping like ion bombs and exploding asteroids and stuff, like that's awesome. And it's got that.
And that like
gun.
Yeah, that noise is awesome. The entire theater was like, what?
Yeah. Honestly, like, I'm not wild about Jango Fett. I'm not wild about how they retcon Boba Fett's existing expanded universe backstory, because I can't throw things away. But it was cool as hell being like, oh, he's actually using a jetpack to do something besides fall in a hole. Yeah. Great. And then he gets
Speaking of falling in a hole, Ayla Sakura, we got to see her, and this is a cool time. We got to see a female Twi'lek that wasn't being torn apart by a Rancor.
Yeah.
She's great.
I think it was really, it was really Attack of the Clones that started kind of being like, hey, Twi'leks are like everywhere. They're like, they've become like kind of one of the top tier Star Wars, races. And yeah, Ayla Sakura's cool as hell.
Speaking of Rancors, Reeks, Nexus, and Acklays, these funny monster boys that were hanging out in this big pit where they tear open Padme's dress. But these guys are great. Like, look at these monsters.
They're just good-ass monsters.
Yeah, that's just a cool-ass thing to watch on a screen. Like, when you see a movie called Attack of the Clones, you expect some, like, old-school sci-fi monster garbage, and that's exactly what we got here. They upped the ante of the Rancor stuff, and we got to see all these characters fight all these enemies, and the droidicas are running around. It's a cool scene. It's fun.
Yeah.
Number 12, Klieg Lars. My man.
What's wrong with
this dude is gross. Look at him. It's Klieg Lars. Everybody loves Klieg Lars. He's hanging out by that plant where he pees.
What's wrong with you?
Number 13, Elan Sleaze Bogano.
Yep, I got a toy of him right here. Yeah, let's show these guys off. We can do a brief reenacting of that scene.
Yep.
Where he's like, my stupid kid is going off looking at that shape-shifting toad woman. He's like, hey, you want to buy some death sticks? I'm like, no, you want to go away and rethink your life. He's like, oh, okay, I'll go away. It's just like this weird Dare. It's just a Dare commercial in the middle of like it's like just say no, or use the Jedi mind trick to make people entirely rethink their. What the hell?
They teach you that that cigarettes exist in Star Wars, which is really funny, and that they're straight up
cigarettes or crack. They never really established. You want to buy some death sticks? And
I mean, he has sleazebag in his last name,
right?
So you're
but
probably
he's got,
right.
Like a trench coat, yeah. So he's like, I mean,
you're right.
He could. I feel like they.
Look at him.
Yeah. Also, it's Mouse from the Matrix, that dude who complains about all the eggs and makes that weird VR porn program with the red dress lady.
Yep.
That's a weird. That's a weird scene. That whole Outlander club scene is great, which is why I've collected all of the toys from it, except for Addie Vita. Vita? I forget her name.
That sounds like a graphics card.
Yeah.
Number 14, Shocks. These big Naboo animals, they look like furry dog ticks. Look at that dunker.
Break the internet.
Look at that butt. Yeah, now this scene is terrible. Everyone hates this scene because they're rolling around, but these guys are in the background. Like, I think this is why I love Star Wars, because you can take the corniest, most gaudy, awful, just saccharine romantic trash, and in the background, there's this big fat dog tick just farting and just rolling around, trying to kiss his wife. It's disgusting. Oh, they're just like.
That's not what they sound like.
That's what they sound like when they're farting.
You forgot the part. Did you talk about the part with the pear?
No.
All right.
That's not a good part.
That's a great part when he's like, "Hello, darling. Can I feed you a pear? I'll make it fly."
No, on the list of the 15 best things in Attack of the Clones.
We're eating apples with a knife and fork.
No,
like
the pear
weirdos.
is not one of them. Number 15. We finally got to see this Yoda fighting with a lightsaber for the first time. This is great. It's weird because he's like doing cartwheels and flips and stuff like that, and it feels wrong. But you know what? So many of the good things in this world do feel wrong.
So the thing about Star Wars back then is they also used to keep stuff fairly under wraps. Like they kept it kind of like buttoned down. They would. I don't remember if when I saw this in theaters it was a surprise that Yoda was kicking ass or not.
Dude, we lost it. We lost it.
I think we were excited. Everyone was like cheering and stuff. But it wasn't like if we had never expected he had a lightsaber.
So yeah, Attack of the Clones is 15. Where were you 15 years ago? Were you watching it in theaters like we were?
Were you born yet? Well, wasn't that fun? Star Wars is great, but hey, if you know somebody who doesn't know Star Wars, what's the best order to show it to them in? Well, we got you covered. Also, be sure to check out our Death Star trench run recreated with Lego, and be sure to check out Up at Noon, every noon Pacific time live on IGN's many tendrils.